discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Alderman May.
I would just add that I don't believe we're allowed to negotiate healthcare benefits
And
for one class.
We aren't allowed
employee.
to negotiate health care benefits. That is a non-permissible subject of collective bargaining.
Mm-hmm.
And I would even take it a step further and say that this is perhaps an attempt to take something that is not a subject of collective bargaining and make it the subject of collective bargaining by turning it into the salary package and compensation package. That's not something we want to do. Yeah, so we have a motion and a second to place on file. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And then update discussion regarding 2018 healthcare budget and options.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ms. Grill.
Rebecca Grill, City Administrator. We have several items we'd like to cover. A lot of them were already presented to you last week as part of the file before the Common Council. We've broken them down into 4 sections. I have Rayanne Belger here from the Horton Group and Peggy Stino here to assist in providing information. So if you don't mind, I'll invite them up at this time. Oh, and Jane Morrow is here from HR in case she's doing nothing. I didn't know what you were doing. So the first item has to do with pharmacy benefit manager selection. This is the Serviu Pharmacy. We presented information regarding the benefits of this last week. We also wanted to have the alternatives, the challenges that we might be facing moving over to this despite the cost savings. So I'll turn it over to Anne to give you that information now.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. There's a second listing of items that look like this, and then the first are all of the opportunities, and I think that in the 2 previous meetings with the Administration and Finance Committee, we've covered those pretty well. I think we're pretty happy that this really presents a growing opportunity. Where we are challenged, I guess, a little bit here is Anthem is not currently linked up through their IT departments with Serviu. And so they are working on that. And what we had asked the city administrator to do in the week before the holiday, the New Year's holiday, was to sign a letter of intent. We were strongly recommending that the city was going to be renewing with Anthem, specifically because of the Blue Priority contract and some of the other things that you found to be of measurable consideration in the past. So with that letter of intent, Anthem has agreed to be meeting on an ongoing basis, and there have been ongoing phone calls literally every other day for an hour to work on this technological feed and implementation. What we found, just to make sure that we assure the committee, is with the benefits that are in place for the majority of employees and retirees right now, there is a separate out-of-pocket maximum for pharmacy benefits. So the prescription drugs literally have a second out-of-pocket. So if the worst case scenario should happen and that feed is not ready by 3/1, we literally can run both programs separately with one ID card and track that out-of-pocket maximum. So no one will be indisposed. That is 918 employees or retirees that are on the Blue Priority plan. We've got a Plan B that's fully knocked out. The people we will have to watch is the 47 that are on the high deductible health plan, because of course integration with pharmacy benefit and medical works hand in hand on those high deductible health plans. But we are working and striving to meet that 2/15 deadline. We want to be able to fully test so that when we implement on 3/1, we're good to go. So that's one of the challenges. The second challenge, and it's a little bit more shown on the budget that we also shared with you. This is an updated budget. If Anthem remains as the administrator, they take on the stop loss. So this is kind of our worst case scenario at this point, which is still a pretty good case as we're about to show you. They have a very, very high administration fee. Anthem has been in about the $46 to $50 range for the city of West Allis, depending if you were on the high deductible health plan or the Blue Priority plan. With the elimination of the pharmacy from Express Scripts, the loss of those rebates, they're increasing the city's administrative rate by $20.47. And then there is a link fee to serve you to do all these data feeds and the reporting. That was an additional $3. So literally our administrative cost with Blue Priority is going to be at $70 per employee per month, and the non-Blue Priority or the PPO will be at $70.75 per month. You can see that at the top on the right-hand side in red. The stop loss fees are firm. Everything's been confirmed. If we do move the stop loss to Anthem, the claims have been updated to use December, so we have calendar year 2017 is in for the 12 months, and we're down to just a little bit south of a 7% total rate increase that's needed. At this point in time, for budgeting purposes though, because everything changes, if you add a month, you take away a month, so as we look at this rolling 12 months and where we'd like to be budgeting as we move into the future, we're literally going to be looking at recommending a 5% increase to the active employees and a 10% increase to the retiree rates, similar to where we were in mid-December when we came, and that's just because we've either fluctuated up a 0.5%, which was the total when you met last week, or down a 0.5% with December 17 claims replacing December 16. So we feel pretty confident and comfortable that with that 5 and 10, the city will be in a good place to be able to budget for the 18-19 benefit year.
Could you go through the back page a little bit more?
Oh, sure.
Survey.
So I mentioned that Servview wasn't set up as a preferred vendor with Anthem, so we're going to, that's that additional $3 administrative fee. It's included in the budget, so we've taken care of all that. That is for 1 year. So once that's taken care of, that will be eliminated. We're working with Anthem and Servview regarding their integration and the ability to share reporting with the stop loss market. We have also filed stop loss claims on behalf of the city of Racine and other cities in the past, so we're all linked up to be able to do that with Anthem, Servview, and the stop loss carrier. Different things for employees and retirees that we want to point out and that we're doing a complete communication campaign for. With any pharmacy benefit manager change, as with, had we stayed with Express Scripts, once a year with Express Scripts, it's on 4/1, which is one of the reasons we feel it's so important to move on 3/1, so that people don't have a change to their pharmacy benefits and then another change. So what happens is every year at one point in time, the pharmacy benefit managers update their formulary. So if something goes generic, for example, it might fall a tier. So when Lipitor went generic, it might fall down to the generic tier or tier 1. And then the brand name Lipitor would go back up to possibly tier 3 because there's a tier 2 and a tier 1 equivalent. We'll see some of that. Most people will be luckier with that change, but we want to make sure that everybody's updated, has their full formulary in a timely fashion, and the plan members will be informed of these changes. So they'll have the new formulary list in plenty of time. The Servview Select formulary may exclude a limited number of medications. At this point in time, as we've looked at this, it's 9 people will be impacted by exclusions. What happens, and when Deb Eklund was here, the pharmacist from Servview, she explained that if something is therapeutically equivalent and more cost effective, they will replace it on their formulary list instead of having all the high cost brand name specialty drugs. For example, for MS, they might pick 1 or 2, and I think she used another example. What will happen here is those 9 individuals will actually be given a letter specific to them to say, here's the questions, we've notified your doctor that this prescription is no longer going to be on the formulary, here are the alternatives. We'll be in contact with your physician if he or she indicates that you cannot take these therapeutic equivalents for whatever reason. You're allergic to a coating, they've been to their time released, and that's not how you can take this medication, then an exception will be made for those individuals. But it will be a conversation between the pharmacist and the physician as well as the member, so that it's not, we don't want to cause fear in any member, and we want to take care of this way before the 3/1 date. Last but not least, we are going to make a move to mandatory generic. This is predominantly, and I'll be perfectly honest, this is predominantly because when we look at the utilization for the retirees on the health plan, a lot of them are getting brand name drugs when there are generic equivalents for almost all of those. Now you think of, if you will, the acid reflux medications, the Nexiums, the Prilosec, the Prevaceds. Not only are they available over the counter, but omeprazole, which is a generic form of a Pepcid, is about $3 per month for a 30-day supply. So we definitely want to move folks in that direction if we possibly can, and that's where some of the savings and some of the rebates will catch us up. So again, they're going to be informed that if they choose to continue to take the brand name when their doctor doesn't indicate it's necessary, they'll obviously be able to do that, but it will cost them more. It will no longer cost them just the generic copay. They'd pay the cost difference between the generic and the brand name. If the physician should indicate dispense as written, it's called a DAW1 exception, then they get it for the same tier copay that they always have. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to make everybody not have any sort of a medical impact, but we're also trying to start early enough to offset any fear, anxiety, consternation about some of these changes, make sure that people have plenty of time to ask questions, and they get their notification, they can talk to their physician so they feel a little bit more comfortable. Last but not least, Serviu has indicated that if the City Council were to move forward with our recommendation and approve it on January 16th, that literally the next day a letter campaign would start. It would be a welcome letter that the city will have, the city HR and finance and administration will have deemed appropriate. It will go out to all plan members on the 17th. It will literally go out the next day, that morning, and then it'll say, here's a welcome letter. If you should get another letter, it's going to be informing you that you have drugs that you're taking that are on the brand name list, on the excluded list, etc. It'll give you specific instructions of what you or your physician need to do. We're also going to make pharmacy technicians available here at the city so that any individual can come in and talk to an actual pharmacist if they have concerns. So we're going to make sure that there's a big campaign. Serviu is also deployed or will deploy their pharmacists to go to all the local pharmacies to make sure that they know that they've been selected as the city's new pharmacy benefit manager. So in case there's a problem with getting a drug, they know to call Wauwatosa and get that taken care of. And they are also willing, if the city council would approve it, to do a newspaper campaign. So we're trying to reach those retirees, those pharmacies that maybe don't always pay a lot of attention to a new ID card or fail to ask for a new ID card, because that's what's going to happen. People will go on 3-1 to the pharmacy, present their old Anthem card, even though they'll have a new one, and it'll say it's been denied. And then people get very upset. So we know in transitions there's always these issues. We're trying to do everything we can to remind people, look for your new ID card. Don't forget that you have a change in your pharmacy benefit manager. Here's all the things that we can do. So they are local. It's nice to have them here. They're flexible, and they're willing to deploy the resources that we need to make sure that our employees and retirees can be comfortable.
And I think you said this already, but I want to make sure. With a switch to Serviu, if we go through with that, that doesn't mean that all of the prescriptions have to be by mail order. We still have the
Correct.
mail order option. You can, but you can also go to Walgreens. You can go
Yep.
to CVS.
Any national pharmacy chain, and a lot of small ones are also in Serviu.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Weigel.
I'm confused. What's the difference between therapeutic equivalent and generic?
A therapeutic equivalent might be two different, we call them multi-source brands. So the maker of one cholesterol medication may still have a patent, while another patent drug is the same. It has the same active ingredients. It just may be packaged differently. It may have. It's kind of like the difference between Waltril and Benadryl. Those are, now I understand those are both,
so I don't know.
right,
I don't know
well,
what the
those are
difference
both
is.
like generic, but, you know, there's allergy medications, very similar active ingredients, but different packaging and made by different companies. So one is made by Eli Lilly, and one might be made by AstraZeneca.
And then a generic would be something that's patent has expired and
Patent has expired.
all sorts of people make it.
All sorts of people can make it, correct. And what typically happens when a drug first loses its patent is that only for the first 6 months that a drug comes off patent, so Lipitor, when it came off patent last year, for the first 6 months, only the manufacturer of Lipitor could make the generic. So the generic actually goes up in price by about 150% for the first 6 months, and then it drops dramatically. So while we have mandatory generic, it's very much managed because we don't want that first 6 months to be crazy, so we'd rather have them taking the brand name because it's actually about 150% less. So these are cost effective but therapeutically equivalent.
Alderman May.
I'm comparing what was presented to us last time. There was a sheet with original pricing budget 2018, assuming no changes,
Right.
and the latest one with the changes. And what I'm seeing is that our fixed costs, so the total stop loss, the administrative fixed costs, the RX setup, are about $800,000 more with this new plan. But our estimated claims are down
Right.
6 million. How does this add up to just a small bit of difference, I guess?
Well, there's a couple of things, so that's a very good catch, very good question. When we look first at the administrative fees, a good portion of the 800,000 is coming from the fact that we are reducing the city's liability down from $275,000 in a specific deductible down to 175. So we're reducing your liability on each individual by about by exactly 100,000, and that was almost twice the stop loss premium. So that's a significant portion of that 800,000. We've also almost doubled the administrative fees. That's being offset by the net savings, the Servue savings, for the new rebates, the mandatory generic savings, all of the things that we're looking to do here of about $1.7 million. So, and we would have had a lot more in stop loss reimbursements. We'd have had 351,000 versus the original estimate of about 100,000. So that's where most of that is coming from.
So yeah, this shows estimated claims for next renewal are down almost 2.25 million. So that's how much we're expecting to save.
Correct, and most of that, as you can see, is almost Servue at $1.8 million, and the 400,000 or roughly 350,000 from the stop loss reimbursements had they been at the different level.
Okay.
So we take last year's claims and project them forward, and if the same thing would have happened, this is what the claims would have looked like.
And for those not paying attention, it's a difference of having to increase everything by 17% to 7%.
Correct.
So it's a
And
big
remember,
reduction in cost.
I apologize. And remember that 7% is overall, and then we have to break it down into how do we get the revenue into the plan.
The
Thus the
510.
reason for the 510.
And we have a printout of those, how that would affect the different categories of employees and retirees. I have that projected on the board. I don't know, Peggy, if you wanted to point
Sure.
out some.
So basically, the circled areas would tell what the costs are. The top section is retirees, the pre-65s and post-65s, and then the bottom section is the active employees. So the circled areas are the difference in the employee annual share. So you should see, the 10% on the retiree section and the 5%. And I think this is a good balance between, the 7% overall and what the loss ratios both look like last year, as well as what typical statistical pre-retiree and after retirement costs are.
Okay.
So we will have a rate sheet that will look what you're used to seeing for the council packet on Wednesday or Thursday, and it'll show what are
On
this year's-
Tuesday? Or what's Thursday?
that's when we get it ready to send to you.
Oh, that way. Okay, yeah. Gotcha.
So we'll have it ready just
You'll
in a
have
couple
it on
days here,
Tuesday.
Yeah.
so that you can see, and actually what we did on the rate sheet for 2018-19 is we're starting with the 2015. So you can see what it looked like just prior to switching over to the new Anthem TPA, and then you can see every year along there. So a lot of numbers on the page, but I think it tells a good story, because we're still not back to what we were switching to Anthem.
One of the other items on the agenda was the Medicare Advantage options. We had discussed that as a group internally, and we'll, with your blessing, we'll still be looking to move and bring ideas and options before the committee, but we're thinking that it might be a later point in the year, maybe May or June 1st or July 1st. There's a lot of changes we're trying to manage. If you would approve the pharmacy benefit manager changes, and the feeling is if we would do the Medicare Advantage at the same time, we wouldn't have the opportunity to give the communication to the necessary people.
And that change could very well require a lot of education to members of the city council as well, because there may be some items that we would recommend the city not include in their customized Medicare Advantage plan, because it's no longer items that are being covered by Medicare that the city's plan currently covers. We need to make sure that, or we would feel much more comfortable if you all were much more comfortable with those same recommendations. So we wanna just make sure that we're managing the health plan to some standard, not that it's something that's always been covered. If it's no longer covered in the healthcare community, we wanna make you aware of that. And then we make a decision as to whether we wanna continue it or not.
Sure.
Yeah, Alderman May.
When will these numbers being shared with anyone for input? For the employees, I mean, this is excellent. I mean, it's minimal annual increase, but there are some retirees that'll see a $3,000 increase. Is what I'm seeing anyway. That bottom line.
$3,000.
Three family with locked-in benefits, pre-65, before 2013. Their annual median change is $2,868. That's huge.
Oh, yeah.
Their benefits are also
I was gonna say,
substantially
keep
different.
in mind, yeah, it's a very different plan,
Oh, it is.
very different.
How so?
Almost no copays and
Oh.
It's-
costs that they have to bear on their own. Yeah, it's very, very different.
The alternative would be not to do the split, to keep, what is it, 6.98? Then the actives, we did not bring that before the
Mhm.
committee, but we certainly could have two options for you to select from. So
Okay.
regarding your question of whether we've shared this is public information, we're posting it on the
Mhm.
as part of the file, so between now and next Tuesday, hopefully people will be looking and
Mhm.
getting this information. We've tried to provide more notice of these things. That's just why we've been
Actually,
talking
this
to
has
you.
been out there since December
December.
19th with just
Okay.
a small change. It was
Okay.
5 and 10.10%. So it has been out there since that night.
So it's probably gone down a little bit since, yeah, so it has been on the website and things since then, so.
Okay.
And on Friday is when you're going to the
Thursday morning.
Thursday?
Okay.
And there's also a retiree meeting this Thursday where you can maybe
We
let
talked
them know.
Thank you.
And they could switch out of this into I mean, Alderman May is right, I'm looking, over 100 of our retirees are gonna be seeing a $1,900 plus increase annually. If I'm reading this correctly, right? Those middle three lines
Mhm.
there. But they could choose to go into a different plan, right?
I think the challenge is that those are the pre-65 retirees, so they wouldn't have the Medicare option
Oh,
available
okay.
to them.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
But they would have a marketplace option available to them.
yeah.
This is why we wanna make sure everyone understands what numbers we're talking about and the individual impacts on people, cause I know that when I don't believe last year we did not do a increase in the, split, but the year before we did, and there was some significant, concern from people at that point. So if there's, would you like us to bring both as an option, the 10, 5 and 10 and the
I'd be curious
7?
to see it. I mean, in general, I think this is good for our employees. But I'd just be curious to see what how the numbers would end up.
Okay,
As the other.
so we could leave this as the recommendation, we could just have that information available. Surely you could always, substitute it if
I was
you
gonna say, I
wanted
can
to.
give you an
Yeah.
idea of what that would
Yeah.
look like. Because the one that's out on the website already from, December 19th was a 7.38%, so now we're
Mhm.
down to 6.98, but very much in the same ballpark. So if everybody was at the same increase level, those three groups, rather than 59%, 66, and 59, it would be 44, 49, and 44%. So about, on the family plan there, it would be, the most expensive one, it would be about $700 different annually.
Mhm.
But one thing you have to keep in mind is when we showed you the loss ratios for those groups,
Mhm.
they
Oh,
were
yeah.
extremely different than the ones on the active. So already we're finding a balance line in between who pays for the increase. And I would say as far as the active employees go, they're more than covering their share.
Well, and two other considerations with that, and just items to keep in mind. This is an annual cost. I would challenge those that have very few copays and really paying that much out of pocket to be looking at a plan that I could get for $8,000 a year for myself and more than two
Mhm.
additional family members. If you were on Cobra, you'd be looking at a cost of approximately $26,000 for that same program. So the retiree cost, I understand what we're suggesting here, but these benefit plans are very different from what your active individuals are looking at. And last but not least is, one of the challenges that we have here at the city is we actually have more retirees on the plan, or an equal number of retirees on the plan than active employees, so the pendulum is really switching. And pre-65 retirees, of course, we have no Medicare offset, so we are literally bearing the entire cost of that. So they're just items that we look at as consultants that we think are important to, when you're measuring, it's not an exact science.
And I could just give one more bit of information. I just grabbed out a rate sheet for 2017 plan year, and I looked back to the 2015 rates for this same group. The premium was $2,350, and we're at $2,390. Just to give you a point of reference, going up to 2629. So that extra difference, that's definitely where you're seeing it.
Where's that 2629 in here?
Actually, you can't see that, but if you look at
Oh, there it is. I see it.
the
Thank you.
2390.
It's a per month cost.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, exactly.
I see right here.
Gotcha.
All right, any further discussion? All right, then, well, yeah, thanks, everybody, and we'll be, this will be on our council agenda for the next council meeting then. Then, moving on our agenda items for tonight, item 3, discussion regarding employee benefit committee recommendations.
I just wanted to remind the group and others watching that we're hopefully going to be having a recommendation for the Employee Benefit Committee at our next meeting on January 24th. So that's basically, there's really no discussion. There's just more informational and to let the broader audience know at this point.
Excellent. And we're moving along here. I understand there's a kickoff at 7 o'clock. Item 4, discussion regarding lean training.
Just want to get let the committee know, we're gonna be working with WCTC. Hopefully, if you would approve a contract I was going to be submitting to the council next Tuesday, we will be having, a number of people participate in the Greenbelt training, which is, 12 people, 16 in the White Belt training, 14 in the Champion training, and 12 in the project selection training, and then 12 in the project coaching session Those trainings start this month. I had some negotiations regarding the pricing. They were at one end and I was at the other, and came in the middle, but it's over $10,000, so I'll be bringing it to the council for your permission to go forward. But it's pretty exciting. We have a lot of people involved in that, so we look forward to that. And as I said, it'll be before the committee and the council next week. So if you have any concerns about that, I believe the total amount will be $17,000. We do have that in the budget, so that was planned, but not 17, but they were at 42, so that's it's
See,
a lot better.
great negotiating. There you go, Rebecca. And it was WCTC that we've used in the past,
Correct,
right?
and that's why we're continuing to go with them.
Okay.
We didn't want to bid that out because we've trained a number of people already in that with them, so.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Weigel.
which of our employees are taking these? Is it just department heads and division heads, or
No, it's
all across the board?
Yeah,
Okay.
so, for example, the champion training, you'll find a lot of the department heads or supervisors in that, cause they're the ones that are supposed to give the employees the resources to do the projects. But the green belt is more of the employees who are involved in processes. The white belts would be, more of the administrative staff that might be assisting the people in doing the projects. So we've got a wide variety of people participating. For the project selection, you'll mostly have a department head or supervisor and the employee that's in the green belt participating, so that we pick the correct project to focus on, so.
All right. Anything else on that agenda item? I think we covered everything. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Yeah, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Yeah.
Even faster.
I think.